this tutorial, I'm going to show you how to make this shawl that Betty over here is wearing. It's made with Lion Brand mandala. I use the colorway Genie. Here's how much scarf you get using only one yarn cake. It's an intermediate level pattern, but if you know how to knit and do some basic increases and decreases, I'll show you how to do all of the other techniques that I used in this pattern, such as the garter tab cast on and how I did this little garter border all along the edge. It's worked from the top down. There's also little sections of brioche rib, and if you've never knit brioche before, this tutorial will be a little intro into the very basics of brioche. You could also leave out these sections and just make a really nice garter stitch shawl for a beginner-friendly option. So let's get into the tutorial. This is a little swatch I made where I didn't use the garter tab cast on, and you can see that this little section of garter edge is missing. By doing the garter tab cast on, we can fill in this little notch here for a seamless look. You're going to need 5mm circular needles with a really long cord. This is a 40-inch cord, and by the end of my shawl, all my stitches were taking up the entire length of this cord. So 40 inches or more. And you'll also need 4 stitch markers. I'm going to demonstrate the garter tab cast on for you with thicker yarn and thicker needles so it can really show up well. With my pattern and any garter tab pattern, it'll tell you to cast on a small number of stitches. So my pattern calls for 5 stitches, and then we're going to knit 10 rows. Just knit every stitch. Don't slip the edge stitches or anything fancy. Just knit, knit, knit for, in this case, 10 rows. So when you've knit your 10 rows of garter stitch, you'll have a little tab like this. And rather than turning your work, we're going to work along this edge here, and you'll pick up 5 stitches. I'm going to find this little upside down U on the garter ridge and pick up 1 stitch for every garter ridge that I see. So now we've picked up 5 more stitches. I have a total of 10 stitches on my needle. And we're going to pick up 5 more along the cast on edge. So pick up 1 stitch for every stitch of your cast on edge. And that is how you do the garter tab cast on. Now you have all of these live stitches all around this little piece of garter stitch. The next step in a top-down garter tab shawl is to place your stitch markers. In my pattern, I've abbreviated this as PM. So when you read the pattern, it says to knit 5 and PM, place the marker. So this is what that looks like. We knit 5 stitches, and you place the marker. That's it. Then we're going to yarn over, knit 2 more, yarn over again, and place the marker. Knit 1, place marker, yarn over, knit 2, yarn over, place your last marker, and knit the remaining 5 stitches. Now that we've placed our markers, we're going to begin the first garter stitch section. And for row 2 and all even numbered rows, that means just knitting every stitch, including the yarn overs. When you come up to your first marker, make sure just to slip it from one needle to the other and continue knitting all of those stitches. When you've knit the last row of the garter section and you're ready to do the eyelets, the non-increase row will look like this. Knit up to the marker, knit 1, yarn over, knit 2 together. Repeat, yarn over, knit 2 together to the stitch before the second marker. Knit 1, slip marker, knit 1, slip marker, knit 1, knit 2 together, yarn over, and repeat. Knit 2 together, yarn over to the stitch before the last marker. Knit 1, slip marker, knit 5. On the next increase row, knit all stitches while putting a yarn over after markers 1 and 3 and before markers 2 and 4. Now I'll show you how to do the brioche rib section. We have to start with a setup round. So we're going to knit 5 as usual, slip your marker, knit that first yarn over, then you're going to yarn over, slip 1 stitch purlwise, knit 1, and repeat. Yarn over, slip 1, knit 1. Up to 1 stitch before the marker. Then you're going to knit 1, slip marker, knit 1, slip marker, knit 2, yarn over, slip 1 stitch purlwise, knit 1, and repeat. Yarn over, slip 1, knit 1, up to the marker, slip your marker, and knit 5. And that finishes your brioche rib setup row. The brioche rib is a 4-row repeat. I'm going to show you row 1 and that'll teach you how to read the other rows in the pattern. To start, knit 5, slip marker, yarn over, knit 1. And in the pattern I have abbreviated BRK, which stands for brioche knit. Now to brioche knit, all you're going to do is see this little slip stitch and yarn over kind of stuck together from the previous row. To brioche knit, you just knit the yarn over and the slip stitch together. And that's a brioche knit. Yarn over, slip 1, brioche knit, BRK. Repeat yarn over, slip 1, BRK to 2 stitches before the marker. Then yarn over, slip 1 stitch, and knit 1 stitch. Yarn over, slip marker, knit 1, slip marker, yarn over, knit 1, yarn over, slip 1, brioche knit, and repeat. Yarn over, slip 1, brioche knit, up to 1 before the marker. Then knit 1, yarn over, slip marker, and knit 5. Now you should have no problems reading the pattern. Grow your shawl as big as you'd like, or until you run out of yarn, and then I'll show you how to add the garter border as you bind off. You're first going to have to cast on 5 more stitches. Use any cast on method you'd like. I'm going to do a little knitted on cast on here. Then you're going to knit 4 of those stitches that you just cast on. And then you're going to knit 2 together. That includes the first stitch you just cast on and the first stitch of your shawl that you want to bind off. Knit those 2 together and turn your work. Then knit 5. That is the repeat for the garter border bind off. Knit 4 stitches, knit 2 together, effectively binding off 1 stitch from your shawl. Turn your work and knit 5 stitches. This bind off method takes a little bit of time because you're only binding off 1 stitch of your shawl every time you knit a row of your border, but it perfectly continues the garter border all the way around your shawl. Now once you only have 5 stitches left on your needles, you're just going to do a regular bind off by knitting 1 stitch and then passing 1 stitch over until you've bound off those last 5 stitches. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial and learned a little something about the garter tab cast on, or how to do a garter border bind off, or maybe a little bit of brioche rib 101. And if you give this pattern a try, please feel free to share your projects on Ravelry or Instagram or Facebook, because I want to see what you make. Thanks for watching. Bye!